Welcome to Body by Design. I'm your host, Blue Driver, a women's strength training and metabolism coach. I went from years suffering hormone imbalances, looking soft and bloated, to symptom-free and building muscle for a toned athletic physique. Since then, I've made it my mission to empower women to take control of their own health, hormones and body composition. So grab a cup of coffee and let's build your body by design.
Good morning and welcome back to the Body by Design podcast. I am Lou Driver, your host. And before I get started today, I'm actually going to ask one small favor of you because I stumbled across a stat the other day that really did surprise me. And that was 70% of regular podcast listeners do not subscribe to their favorite podcast. Now, I'm going to take a moment to ask you to pause and hit that follow button. And there's two big reasons for this. One, yes, it helps the algorithm get my podcast out there. So it gets it into the hands of more women just like you, 40 plus, training, trying to build that lean, muscular physique in a healthy, sustainable ways that also improves their perimenopause and menopause symptoms. And if that is you and you want to be part of the movement that helps women educate themselves and create an amazing midlife, please hit that follow button. And the second one is more for you, where if you are enjoying listening to some of the people and guests that I get on this podcast, when I reach out to people to come onto my podcast as a guest, they're going to look at podcast numbers, follower numbers, all those sorts of statistics, and decide whether it's actually valuable enough for their time. So the more followers of the podcast, the more names I'm going to get on here to interview, which will be of benefit to you. So just take that moment, pause now, hit follow, and come back. So today I am actually hitting on a topic. I am going to give you one strategy that resolves 90% of the complaints and roadblocks I see 40 plus perimenopausal women who are training, trying to change their body and aren't getting the results that they want, change for them. Okay. And this is around macro tracking. Now, there is a couple of things I'm going to assume here because I want to stick tightly to this topic today. So I'm going to assume that you already know that tracking is a tool for data and you've reframed it from being just a tool of restriction or a tool for dieting. If you are still feeling like the only time you go to macro tracking is for restriction and dieting, I think you need to understand how much more helpful this tool can be. And I have lots of podcasts I'm going to refer you to if you haven't swapped that mindset or don't understand how beneficial tracking can be for you. So I would suggest that you go and listen to podcast number 3, number 42, and number 48. It's all about tracking and data and how to reframe it from being a restrictive dieting to actually helping you read your body and make sensible, unemotional changes that put you on the right direction of your ultimate goal. So there's 3 podcasts that are really, really helpful for you. That's number 3, number 42, and number 48. I've got them all numbered, really, really simple for you to go and find. The other one I'm going to assume is that you actually already know your maintenance calories and have spent time confirming it and have a solid set of macros that are appropriate for a 40 plus woman who is lifting in the gym. Okay. Now, if you don't, and you're always going to macros of restriction, you do need to know your maintenance calories and you actually need it beyond an online calculator. You need to actually confirm that they are specific to you. Online calculator, great place to start, but you need to confirm it's specific to you. Now, I have a couple of podcasts that explains all of this on how to find your maintenance calories and the importance around it. So if you don't have that, I would suggest going to podcast 36 and podcast 40. But I also have a roadmap that I can send you, and that is in the show notes. So just drop down into the show notes, hit the link, pop your email address in, and it will be sent to your email. And that gives you the exact links, the best calculators to use, the strategy around confirming your maintenance specific to you and your macros. But it also gives you this strategy that I'm about to talk about as well. So if you want all of this in one, my roadmap covers everything. So please hit the link below and get that. So then you've also got that as a resource too. Totally free. Just pop your email address in and it will be sent to you. All right. So let's get started on this one strategy that resolves 90% of perimenopausal women's issues when they're training and trying to build a lean muscular physique and it's not working for them. So what are the complaints that I normally hear that I believe this one tracking strategy is going to resolve? It's not even a belief. I see it happen time and time and time again. And it's what I apply in my midlife muscle method for all women who come into either my mentorship or my private one-to-one coaching. And if they start here, everything changes. Within weeks, they're seeing results, literally within weeks. So let's start with some things like gut issues, okay? A lot of the time, we're not giving our gut a break because we're always hungry and craving. So it's going to resolve a lot of gut issues. It's going to prevent cravings. So if you're someone who gets to the end of the day and you're rifling through the cupboard like a raccoon on crack looking for food, then this is for you because this will help calm those cravings. And honestly, this method actually stops those cravings within days. On the assumption you're using your maintenance calories and you know what they are, this will resolve it within days. I've literally seen clients trying to eat their maintenance calories and go, I can't stick to it because by the time I get to the afternoon, the cravings are wild and I just binge. And all we did was applied this structure within 2 days. Katie was one of my clients within 2 days. I'm specifically thinking about her. And that's where my term raccoon through a cupboard on crack came from. I don't know how that came up, but I know it spurred from a conversation with her. And literally within 2 days, she had spent a year trying to constantly play with her food. And yet her cravings got worse and worse and worse because the exact thing she was doing, she kept applying even heavier. And it got worse until she came to me and then they were resolved within 2 days. So cravings, if you have cravings on maintenance calories, this solution will resolve that for you and you'll be absolutely gobsmacked at what it does for cravings. Energy. So whether it's you lag energy because you don't sleep well, this can come back to blood sugar balance. So energy, sleep, blood sugar balance, insulin resistance, all of these things we've got going on here can be driven from the way you're consuming your food. And the way we do this macro tracking, because we learn to track in advance, we don't track on the fly, and this method helps you do that, will resolve all of those issues. It provides you with balanced meals, it provides you with regular meals, it provides you with everything you need to calm down blood sugar spikes and drops, which is what happens when you're not eating properly. You have this blood sugar spike really high, and then it drops really low, and then it spikes really high, and then it drops really low. So you're on this massive roller coaster up and down. Now, our insulin and blood glucose is meant to rise and fall. Absolutely. But it's meant to be a nice rolling wave. Think of it like that. And when you don't have this strategy in place, you're up and down and up. It's too dramatic and it drains your energy. It interferes with your circadian rhythm and long-term creates insulin resistance, which is why most women in the 40-plus age group have insulin resistance. The other thing it's going to do is so away from the energy around blood sugar, glucose, and sleeping, we've also got energy around training. So going into training or coming out of training, feeling extremely fatigued or not being able to perform to your best, which ultimately is making your training really unenjoyable. You used to really enjoy training and now it just feels harder and harder all the time. Guarantee you that this will help. This will absolutely help. It teaches you how to fuel your training and recovery correctly. So not only are you going to be able to get into the gym and provide that stimulus to the muscle to indicate growth, you're also going to have what you need coming out of training to recover and actually allow your body to build that muscle. So the gym provides the stimulus provided you work hard enough. So your food is going to give you energy. And if you do your fuel timing properly, which this method covers, and it's so simple, I'm telling you, it is so, so simple. That it covers this, that you've got enough energy going into the gym, you then just have to work hard. That says to your muscle, hey, I want you to grow. But it's actually not going to have the capability to grow if it doesn't have the right fuel coming out for recovery, because muscle growth actually happens after the gym. For the following 24 to 48 hours, is where your muscle actually grows, and you need the right building blocks for that recovery. It also helps reduce that soreness that you get, that inability to go in and work hard again in your next session. So it covers all of this, so many things that it really improves. Then we've got the feelings of tracking. If you're someone who has gone, I tried tracking, it's too time consuming, I'm playing macro Tetris at the end of the day, I get tired of drinking protein powder on water just to meet my protein at the end of the day before I go to bed because I realize I haven't met my macros. I'm sick of all these different dinners that are different macros and I'm shuffling everything. This method helps you tie all of that in together, and you can actually start planning in advance, which means that you can then prep easily and you can actually swap meals in and out quite easily. So the other day we went out for lunch and I was able to just take my lunch and throw it in at dinner, and it didn't affect my macros. How cool is that? Wouldn't that be good? Or I cooked a heap of dinner, had leftovers, popped it in the freezer. Something goes wrong down the track, 2 weeks down the track, I don't know, little Johnny ends up in hospital and you're spending the evening in hospital. Little Johnny's fine, obviously, but you come home, you're starving, you haven't done any dinner. What are you going to eat? Great. You can pull whatever is in the freezer, pull it out and know that it still meets your macros, because all your macros in your meals are the same. So what is this strategy? It is my 4-meal strategy. Once you have actually worked out your maintenance calories and your macro split that's good for you, you take those calories and with your protein and your carbs, divide it by 4. Now, when we talk about protein, most women need somewhere between 120 and 150. I'm giving a fairly broad range there, 120 to 150 grams of protein. So if you did 30 to 40 grams of protein in every meal, so you divide it by 4, if you're putting 30 grams of protein in every meal and you've got 4 meals, you just met 120 grams of protein. Boom, done, right? If you're 130, you would just bump it up a little more towards the 135. If you're 140, take it to 40 grams of protein per meal. But you know exactly how much protein in each of your meals to get to meet your protein requirements for the end of the day. And you're not at the end of the day going, oh my God, I've now got to drink a protein shake on water just to meet my protein requirements because I've got no carbs left and I've got no fat left and it's the only thing I can do. I mean, really, how is that enjoyable? I love all of my food. I don't actually have to worry about playing macro Tetris at the end of the day because I use this type of strategy. Then your carbs, you've got your carbs. And when we eat protein, we must put carbs with our protein, or when we eat carbs, we must put protein with it. So each meal really needs to be balanced, having protein and carbs in every meal. So if you just split your carbs out evenly, you'll know you're getting an appropriate ratio of carbs to protein to keep that balance. And this is when I talk about balance, this is where I'm talking about blood sugar levels, energy levels. Because if you eat too much protein with not enough carbs, you're going to dump your blood sugar, all right? And then your insulin output is too low. And if you eat too many carbs with no protein, you're going to spike your blood sugar and your insulin is going to work overtime to bring that down. So this is how your blood sugar balance gets out of whack. And this is how insulin resistance occurs, that over a long period of time of making your insulin overwork because you're having meals with too many carbs and not enough protein, will create insulin resistance. So when we overproduce insulin in a meal, it's kind of like drugs. You know how people build up a tolerance, or alcohol. If you don't drink very often, 1 or 2 drinks and you're like, woohoo. Whereas someone who drinks every day, they're like 1 or 2 drinks, I don't feel anything. Give me the car keys, I'm ready to go. Like they process it differently because there is a resistance to it. Yeah, your body gets familiar with it. And this is what happens with insulin. So when you drive your insulin too much, your body gets used to high amounts of insulin. So then the next time you've got blood glucose is high, you've got to produce more insulin to actually make it work. So you're always producing more and more and more until your body just becomes resistant to it. It's like it doesn't notice it anymore. So then your insulin stops opening the cells to put the blood glucose in and it stays in your blood. Boom, diabetes, insulin resistance. This is where a lot of that belly fat that hangs about in 40 plus women happen because they've spent the last 10 years eating unbalanced meals and becoming insulin resistant. Okay. Hormones love balance. Hormones are driven from circadian rhythm and insulin and blood glucose as well. So it's really important there in perimenopause when our hormones are already shifting and going a little bit crazy. If we want to be resilient in that and be able to weather that storm without having excessive symptoms, having blood sugar balance and energy balance is critical. Energy balance in general. I find a lot of women are just not eating enough at the beginning of the day when you're about to expend most of your energy because you're now awake, you're now moving, you're going about your day, regardless of where training fits in there, you are moving about and you are most active throughout the day. And yet women are eating the least amount in the morning and going really heavy in the afternoon. And this is where my client Katie that I was just talking about, this is what she was doing. She was having these really light meals in the morning and at lunch, but then going heavy in the evening. Now, at first, she didn't realize what she was doing, but then she would get these cravings and she was like, right, I must need more at dinner time to satisfy me. I'll have a bigger dinner. So she just kept shuffling more and more calories in to the end of the day, and it was making her cravings worse because you've woken up, you've started expending energy, and over the day you are not providing your body with enough energy to function, that your body is all about survival. So it starts driving the hunger cues, particularly sweet cravings, because it's going, I don't have enough energy. So the quickest, fastest access energy source for your body is glucose, sugar. This is where sugar cravings come from. Not sugar, it's not addictive. No, it's when you restrict it back that hard that your body is operating throughout the day, you're expending your energy, particularly if you're a morning trainer. This is terrible that you're expending all this energy, and as your body goes through the day, it gets more and more and more depleted. Remember, you've just fasted all night. You've done anywhere between 8 and 12 hours fasting just from eating dinner to waking up and having your breakfast, right? So you're already in a fasted state. You're already depleted, and then you just give it a little twinkle of food and then go about your day and start expending this energy, and your body's going, whoa, hang up. You want me to think clearly? Think brain fog. You want me to think clearly? Give me some glucose, please. You want me to lift that heavy shit? Give me some energy, please. And if you're not doing that, your body triggers its survival mode. So think cortisol going up. It's not that cortisol is bad for us. It's just that if we live in it excessively because we don't provide what our body needs, our cortisol rises and then it starts burning muscle and things like that to produce energy for you. And that's a high stress state for your body. So cortisol is elevated. When cortisol is elevated, we become more insulin resistant as well. Can you see this whole circle that goes around? Now, I know you hear about the training and I know you just want to lift heavier and you want to build muscle, but all this is interlinked. You need to start understanding the level of your health, how optimized you are. And I don't mean optimized by going out and doing stupid things, that these health hacks and spend your life optimizing everything to the nth degree. I don't mean that. I don't mean obsessive optimization. I mean optimize your body by giving it what it fucking needs and operates on, for God's sake, please. So optimize your health, which will then flow on to calming your body, calming your cortisol, reducing insulin resistance, improving your blood glucose, which all improves hormone balance. So where you've got a foundation that is solid, that the shifting hormones in perimenopause and menopause, particularly in perimenopause, our hormones aren't just declining. They're actually wild. Estrogen is wild. It's up and down. And our body doesn't have a solid foundation to actually survive that. So those shifting hormones, we're not resilient enough for that. So those shifting hormones just reveal, when you get these excessive symptoms, they just are revealing that shaky foundation that you already had. And when you've got brain fog, you've got energy depletion, you're getting frozen shoulder even, these are all things that are going to affect your training. So you have to start connecting training, muscle building, being leaner, reduce body fat for that lean look, connecting that with health and optimal hormones in perimenopause. It is all linked. They are not separate things. I see women chasing weight loss and perimenopause without the muscle and the training, and muscle affects hormones as well, by the way. So, they're chasing that without training and it's not the complete picture. The type of women I work for are usually training already, or they know they want to strength train and they know they want to be strong. That excites them, and they start in the gym, but they haven't given themselves, so they're starting to build that muscle, but it's not really going very well. And that's because they've missed the hormone and health piece. And it really all comes back to our foundation of food, sunlight, stress, and stress covers recovery as well, because training is a stressor on the body. And if we don't recover from that, that's additional negative stress. And sleep, nutrition, sunlight, stress, and sleep. If you are already training, they are the other 4 pieces that you need to look at. And this one strategy of dividing your macros into 4 actually covers all of this. So what do you do once you've divided into 4, and how do you eat them? So you divide it into 4, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There is 3 for you already, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then you have this 4th meal. Where do you put it? Well, I'll put the question back on you to, when do you train? That meal is your training meal. I refer to it as the training meal. And you're going to sandwich that around one of your main meals, because they're all equally done. And I can say, from a muscle building perspective, when you divide it by 4 without getting into really deep nuances, which once you have actually set this foundation and you get rid of all the noise of crazy hormones and lagging energy and crap sleep, dragging your ass through the gym and not enjoying it anymore because you always feel exhausted, brain fog, once you get rid of all of that shit through this method, you can then start reading your body and reading your data, which is what I do with women in my midlife muscle method, in the mentorship that I run for Midlife Hot and Sculpted. You can actually start reading your data and reading your biofeedback and make some tweaks from there. And because everything's very clear and very stable and very structured, when you make shifts, you can test and measure and go, yep, that worked for me. No, it didn't. And everyone's a little bit different. I'll get into that a little more in a moment. But when we have these 4 structured meals, it calms everything down and it addresses the nuance of, well, when you train, you really should eat protein after. You don't have to worry about it before, blah, blah, blah. Just let's get rid of all of that. That's just all like, oh my God, am I meant to be having protein before I train or after I train? What sort of carbs am I meant to be, how many carbs am I meant to have? All the rest of it. Honestly, if you're at maintenance and you divide by 4, all of this will work out. As long as your macros are maintenance macros for strength training women over 40. And again, my roadmap gives you everything on how to work that out if you haven't done that already. Or book a strategy call with me and we can go through the gaps with you. I do a 30-minute strategy call with women to work out, where are you now to where do you want to be? And this gap in between is your roadmap. So I help you work out that roadmap of specifically what your gaps are. Is it a training gap? Is it a nutrition gap? Is it a hormone gap? Like, what is the gap for you that's preventing you to getting to where you want to be? So I do that in a strategy call. So you can also book that. The link is in the show notes as well. But when you take these 4 meals, it covers all the bases of adequate protein at the correct time of the day, adequate meals for sleeping, adequate balance of protein to carb ratio. It pretty much covers all of these things. And I teach all these nuances within my mentorship. But just to get you started, just divide into 4. And that's where I start all of my women. I'm literally giving you what I get all of my women to start with. Divide it into 4 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and use the 4th meal as a training meal. So if you I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I go train woman, you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you structure a pre-training meal. This is your 4th meal, but it's going to be at the beginning of the day. This is your training meal. It's going to be structured for you to have before you go and train, so you've got adequate energy. Then you come home and you have your breakfast, which is already worked out in your macros because you divided by 4. And then you have lunch and then you have dinner. Or you might be an after work trainer. So you'll have your breakfast, you'll have your lunch, you'll probably tend to have an earlier lunch when you work like this. Then you will have your training meal mid-afternoon to go into your late afternoon training to come home and have dinner. So not only at dinner are you covering recovery from training and providing your body with all the building blocks, you're also giving yourself enough food to go to bed and go to sleep and actually sleep quite soundly and not have cortisol spikes at 3 o'clock in the morning, which wake you up and you're going, la, da, 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 why can't I fucking sleep? Well, resolves this too. Look at all of these things that it resolves by simply doing that. And it really is that simple. Now, if you go, oh, but I like a dessert as well. So take that fourth meal and meet those macros with the dinner and dessert. That's all you have to do. Just collate it into one. That's it. That is your fourth meal. It can include dessert in there. Absolutely. So this is such a simple, simple strategy. Then it allows you to pre-plan because you know exactly what you've got to hit all the time. And even if something crops up and you're out and about and you go, oh, you know, I had lunch at home, things have gone pear-shaped, makes you're going to have to buy it. Okay, I need about 30 grams of protein. That's going to be about 100, 125 grams of meat. Where can I get that? I need 40 grams of carbs. And I know that's going to be about this much in, sourdough or whatever. So you can go and pick because you've been doing that anyway and you know what types of food meet those amount of grams. So it actually starts teaching you what quantities of food provides you with those macros because you're doing it every single meal and you learn that and you're planned in advance. So, and then you can swap these meals around. If you're actually out for lunch and you end up having, lunch out and you come home and you go, I can't be bothered cooking dinner because maybe you don't prep dinner. Maybe that's the way you work, but you've got lunch prepped. You come home and just have your lunch. Same macros, it worked. And then you give your body time to actually settle down and create this foundation. And literally within weeks, if you can stick to that, I challenge you, stick to that for 4 weeks and tell me how you feel. Message me on Instagram, strengthstraining.nutritionist. Send me a message and go, oh my God, I listened to your podcast on your meal planning strategy. I did it for 4 weeks and I cannot believe the difference. I guarantee you, sleep, energy throughout the day, brain fog improves, planning improves, understanding macros improves, energy going into training improves, your recovery improves, you actually start building muscle, you sleep better. Like all of these things that improve off of doing this one simple strategy. It is so simple. So simple. Now, I did mention I would get into some of the nuances. And as you actually start gaining momentum, so for example, your training is going to pick up and you are actually going to start really training to capacity. If you understand progressive overload and working to failure, and you've always just felt really fatigued, all of a sudden your training is going to go through the roof. Even though that's all you had to give, your body hasn't actually had the ability to build the muscle or for you to truly work to your muscular capacity because you're just too fatigued all the time because you haven't been fueling training. Well, all of a sudden you start fueling training and recovering and sleeping well, and you don't have the brain fog and blah, 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 that your training starts going through the roof. And with that comes the nuances. So for me now, as an advanced trainer, I need to be more nuanced. So I personally have shifted beyond the 4 meal strategy. It is a base that I can start with, but I have gotten more nuanced. And this is where the mentorship starts teaching you those nuances. So the first step is, the 4 meal strategy. And then once everything calms down, we start looking at your data, looking at your biofeedback, and then we start going, okay, what can we do to improve here? What is the data telling us? What is the feedback telling us? And what I have learned, and everyone is different, that my the weakest link in the chain for me is if I don't have enough, like I really have to fuel training hard for me. Okay. Because I know that, the minute I go into a deficit, my training suffers and I really have to manage that. That's me personally. And I've got clients just like me that are like, oh, holy hell, deficits are really hard to keep my strength in the gym. And then I have other women that are like, yeah, don't feel it. Yep. And they're still getting PBs and they're training really hard. So that does not affect them as much, but they may have something more specific around. But if I don't start my day with a slightly bigger breakfast, I feel it. So they might need slightly more at breakfast in comparison. And these are the nuances. So for me, though I don't go super heavy in the afternoon, it's not like I've got, 70% of my calories in the afternoon and the evening. I haven't done it like that, but I am slightly heavier in my afternoon meal and my evening meal for that reason of I know my body requires a hell of a lot more for energy and training. I believe that comes from the adrenal fatigue I've suffered over the years, that I really am sensitive to it. So I feel really well going into the evening and into my training. But I also know that when I get up in the morning and have breakfast, I walk 10 steps down my hallway, park my ass on a chair because I work from home and stay there all day. And I walk 5 steps across the hall to the toilet and might walk 10 steps back up to get my lunch later on. Like I move fuck all during the day. I'm not buzzing around, getting ready, getting in the car, driving to work, walking to meetings. I'm not doing any of that during the day. Going off to the staff room across the other side of the building. Like I don't have that movement in my day. So I actually can afford to lighten up lunch and breakfast a little and allocate that into my training. So I haven't gone over the top with that shift, but I've done it slightly because I've read my biofeedback, and I've tested, measured over time. And I know that when I just give a little more in my training, so a little more in the afternoons, I perform and recover so much better. And I am not feeling any energy lags. I don't have insulin resistance. I feel really balanced. I don't have any brain fog from the breakfast and the lunch that I'm having. If I was like, oh, geez, I don't feel like I can get through my day, or I'm not thinking very well, I would have to be looking at the size of my breakfast and go, well, I'm not giving myself enough after fasting. I need to boost this a little bit more. But like I said, I haven't reduced it crazy, but just enough to make a shift towards my training. And it supports the energy expenditure I have throughout the day being a work from home person. They are nuances that you can look at later on down the track. Then there's the nuances of what are your meals made up of. Obviously, you want nutrient-dense foods that are easy to digest. Stop piling your plates with wheat, broccoli, nuts, seeds, salads. None of that stuff has any nutrition in it. Yes, they have nutrition in it, but it's not bioavailable to our bodies. It's really hard to digest. So if you have gut issues in particular, now salads were designed to be a side salad, not for you to go out and order a fucking chicken seasoned Caesar salad that's all salad leaves and a bit of dry chicken breast on the top, slathered in shitty mayo seed oils. That is not nutritious at all, because all that salad, even though it's claimed to have vitamins and minerals in it, which it does, actually isn't bioavailable on your gut. And if you've got gut issues, it makes your gut even worse. So we shifted from these salads, broccoli, cauliflower, those sorts of things that were just an addition to your meal became, the major component of our meals with mass amounts of protein. Please don't overeat in protein at the sacrifice of carbs, by the way. Make sure your macro split is appropriate for 40 plus and strength training. And we seem to have had this pendulum swung where women are going, the more protein I eat, the more muscle I will build. But you need to remember carbs have minerals, vitamins, nutrients in it that are critical to muscle building as well, not just the amino acids in protein. You need all the other stuff as well, and the energy that you get from those carbohydrates. So do not be this person that's on 180 fucking grams of protein and, 80 grams of carbs and then, 70, 80, 90 grams of fat. Like that's not an appropriate split. So again, roadmap takes you to a better calculator that's appropriate, and then you can test and measure from there. But that is the basis of this principle, this strategy, and it's so fucking easy, and it's going to resolve 90% of your issues. Like I said, that other 10% is nuances down the track, but you can't get into those nuances until you get rid of all the noise of fatigue and energy dips, brain fog, hormone issues, not being able to build muscle, not understanding why that's working, holding belly fat, all those sorts of things going on, all those signs and symptoms that are telling you that your body isn't appropriately fueled in some way, shape or another, whether it's timing, whether it's spread, whether it's balance, any of those things. This covers everything. Even down to if you're getting at least 30 to 40 grams of protein in every meal, you're covering the leucine component, which leucine is the trigger for muscle protein synthesis. But you don't have to overload your brain with, oh my God, am I getting enough leucine? Will this actually trigger my muscle protein? You can forget all of that. This strategy covers everything. Am I getting enough carbohydrates for energy? This strategy covers everything. Well, what's a balanced meal? This strategy covers all of that. I'm tired of waking up from cortisol in the middle of the night. This strategy covers everything. It honestly is an absolute game changer. Give it a go. Message me on Instagram. And if you actually found this helpful, this simple one strategy that you can apply tomorrow, take a screenshot of my podcast, share on Instagram, and tag me at strengthtraining.nutritionist. And I'll look forward to hearing from you all and how you went.